Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, y'all. Happy Friday Eve. It is Medical Billers Network Live Thursday. We have a special guest today. Drum
Hi.
roll. Miss Tameka again visiting us from Medical Billing Maven here on YouTube. Thank you for being here, Tameka.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I love having you on here. It's so fun. Whenever you have someone that has that same type of brain, the one who's got the thoughts, the ideas that just fly in and they fly
Yes.
out, and
Yes.
which is such a gift. We really are blessed that we have these kinds of brains. So happy to share in the space of YouTube with you. So I want to first welcome everybody. We are catching up last week. We were not able to go live. You guys, I had one of those medical billing nightmare weeks where it was all hands on deck to get some work done and some projects done. And so you all know that those things happen from time to time. So that's what went on last week. So yeah, we are manifesting clear days, except now it seems like next week I might have to change some things up. So just stay tuned for that. If you guys are not connected to us on socials and all the places, please get connected so that you can stay up to date. Even here on YouTube, if you are subscribed, you will get a notification when we post in the community page that tells you that something has changed or we're doing something fun or new or special. So make sure that you are subscribed, all the things that you want to do to stay connected to us on the different platform that you're watching from right now. So with that said, welcome. When you get here, let us know that you are in the house. Tell me where you are joining in from and answer today's question of the day. Today is, have you ever sat for the CPB? What is the CPB? CPB is Certified Professional Billers Test. Have you ever sat for the AAPC's Certified Professional Billers Exam? You don't have to tell us whether you passed or failed or anything. We just want to know if you've ever sat for the exam. I'm just curious how many folks in here have had the experience and knowing, a little bit of the insider view. Perhaps you sat for another exam. That would be very relevant, especially if it's been recent from AAPC, because the testing environment is fairly the same for all tests now. The CPB was, during the pandemic, still offered in person. That was one of the last tests that they pivoted to do online offering. And that was fun for a lot of people. There was a lot less testing available. So you were driving places. So, hey, Tanya's in the house.
Hey, Tanya.
Yeah, we love being together too. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Let's see. Hey, okay. Oh, yes, you have. Okay, I love it. Congrats. Well, cool. I'm not going to say congratulations, but congratulations for the effort. We'll say that if you did. And yes, Vampire at Midnight. I like your handle. That's pretty good. So CPB is Certified Professional Biller. Both Tameka and I have the credentials. I have CEUs that I need to do to keep my credentials.
Yes.
It was one of those years I was like, oh my God, I'm due already? What?
Those 2 years sneak up on you.
Girl, they do. I actually waited till the last minute, found out about it. I told Nicole, I'm like, can you double check when it's due? Yeah, I was due. And so I had to pay the extension fee, which you can do if you need to. But that'll be powering through some CEUs here over the next few weeks to get all of them under my belt. Because part of it is that I do a lot of other trainings, a lot of other things, and don't always keep track of things that are relevant for CEUs, which is tricky,
Mm-hmm.
So before we dive in, let's do our quick recap. Follow Nicole's rules. She's giving us thumbs up in the back office. All right. So this week we are talking, are you ready for the CPB? Last week we talked how to speak like a biller. Not last week, but the week before. How to speak like a biller. It was a fun conversation, actually. I really, really enjoyed it. You guys were fantastic in the audience, engaging, and a lot of really great insight, input. I thought it was super fun. I'm very excited to have that conversation. I know we decided we would continue that because we didn't quite get through all of the majority of the most common terms. And so we're going to do that again. The week before that was the trivia party, and we are not too far off from another trivia party. So if you have never been a part of our trivia, it's always the first Thursday, Thursday of the month that we do trivia, and we give away money. So if you know some things, you can come show off, show your skills, and join us for the trivia party. All right. Let's see. So if you are new here, hello. This is Medical Billers Network Live. We are a show for Inlera University, which is a channel that is committed to alleviating the stress and confusion in the business of healthcare. Everything that we do here is all in the business, the backbone of the healthcare industry. We don't do really anything that's heavily patient facing, with the exception of financial stuff. So, and then of course, what the help supporting the providers and what they do with their coding. And so if you like that side of healthcare, then you're in the right place. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to do the things that you need to do to make sure you stay connected, which is like hitting the notification bell and staying engaged with our content is what helps YouTube and all of the other social media gods know that you like the content and that you want to stay connected. So just keep that on your radar. And if you have people that are interested in healthcare or that are already in healthcare, send them the videos, share them information, share the feedback with them. A couple of weeks ago, we had our medical billers meetup. That was so fun. Tameka was a part of that. It was such a really cool time. We got were you a part of that one? You were a part of the month before. The month before. Yeah. So 2 months ago. But we were so excited because we ended up with our Zoom rooms this time, which was cool. So we had our breakouts and then we were able to come back and regroup, and people were just really collaborating well. It just warms my heart. So that if you don't know about the Medical Billers meetup, you need to get into the Medical Billers Network Facebook group so that you can stay connected to when we put on the meetups. It's at the moment every other month. And so I don't know what the next one is at the moment, but maybe Nicole will dig it up for us and give us the next date because I don't remember when it is. But that is a time for you to get together with your fellow billers and work through issues, work through stuff that you might be struggling with on the job, and problem solve together, and maybe just learn some things from listening to other people do that. So hi, my friends. I see you guys coming in. Thanks for saying hey when you get here. Let us know if you sat for the CPB. So just so you know, Inlera University is a part of Inlera, which is my main business. We do revenue cycle management and consulting. We also obviously provide training, and our focus really is to support you guys here with this space. So really community building, really giving an opportunity for you to get stronger in your knowledge, because at the end of the day, it's a trickle-down effect, right? It's a ripple effect when we learn more, and everything that we do trickles back down to the patient, right? So we have the opportunity to make a greater impact by just doing a better job. So we are excited to talk about whether you are ready. Let's go. All right. Yes. Miss Tameka.
Yes.
Do you want to quickly share a little bit about your CPB journey? When did you decide you wanted to get the CPB?
Right. Okay. So I started doing billing in 2006, and I didn't get certified till 2013. So I actually didn't even know it had a such thing as a certification. I was just doing the billing, and so when I first started out, I just think I was kind of in my little bubble, just doing the billing and that specific specialty, just in my bubble. And I can't remember, I think we had a seminar for one of the local seminars. It was held for Cigna, United Healthcare, and I got to meet some other billers. And then from there is when I learned about you can get certified and taking courses and all types of stuff. And I decided that I was going to be a member of AAPC and then get certified. So I actually first got certified as a practice manager, and then I did my CPB on the same year. I did it, one in April, then the other one in December.
Well, look at
So
you.
I was just excited, and
Exactly.
I had to leave because we don't have a local chapter here. So I had to go to Puerto Rico to do mine. So I had
That
to
sounds
fly over and
awful.
come back, and
Oh
yeah.
no. That sounds terrible to go to Puerto Rico for.
Yeah.
She's our
I
island
know, right?
girl. She's gonna like, I was just gonna island hop to go take my
Yeah.
CPB test. Like, I love
Yes,
that.
but yeah, I just kind of just up and said, I'm gonna get certified and just did it.
It's
Yeah.
so good. That's the way to do it. I feel like too, once you've gotten past that first test and you're like, you've gotten past the fear of sitting for the exam and you haven't sat for an exam for a while, you're just like, oh, I could do this
Yeah.
again and again
Yes.
and again.
Yeah.
Like, and you feel like really accomplished. And it is something, I don't know. I honestly think that you get like a really beautiful, like, um, adrenaline rush
Mhm.
from it. Like once you get the results and they're positive, like for sure the testing creates a lot of chemical, biochemical. It's just more nervousness and stress. But when you get the results in the mail, there's something quite exhilarating about
Yeah.
where you're just like, I want to do that again. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. I
It's
was
so
so
fun.
excited.
I love that you talked about not having taken the CPB or taken any sort of certification before, because we get that question a lot: is it even necessary?
Mhm.
And the truth is that the billing world was one of the last formalized certifications to exist in this arm of healthcare. A lot of the reason for that is that it is such a hard thing to kind of
Put together.
contain.
Right.
Like, how do we like create a program and a testing environment that helps people really feel prepared? And so I think
Mhm.
it's great that they didn't like jump to it and try to create something that if they didn't feel like they could really encapsulate like the real on the job knowledge that was necessary
Mhm.
across all specialties. So I think they've done a decent job at kind of making it more broad, as far as experience and things like that go. The truth
Mhm.
is that, um, I didn't even know for a long time as well that medical billing had a certification, and I think I maybe heard about the AMBA's, the American Medical Billers Association test before that,
Mhm.
and I had
Mhm.
been in the billing world for so long, so I'm like, I'll do
Mhm.
that. Like, but the thing is that, for my initial, I'm trying to think when I decided to sit for CPC first, because I felt great. Like I could develop knowledge as a biller very quickly. I was kind of mentored by a practice manager slash biller. So I just
Right.
kind of like attached to her hip for a while and just absorbed all of the information in her brain.
Yeah.
And she was not a certified coder. I didn't think that was a thing. It wasn't until I started exploring specialties outside of the one that I was interested in that I felt that kind of
Mhm.
feeling of fear of like, oh my gosh, like, what if I don't know enough? Like, I love
Mhm.
these other specialties, but I don't know what I don't know. And so I thought, well, let me get some certification and try to figure it out. And I hated, y'all. I am currently do still dislike highly. I'm not going to use the H word, but back then I really hated coding. Like I hated it. And like I'm just not programmed for that. Like I am not programmed for coding. Nothing pains me more than to
Right.
open up a code book. Now, I have code books, and if I have to renew them, I do. I swallow hard because I don't want to ever renew them. So, like, that I will be sitting for my CPB. That I'll be sitting for my CEUs and like doing all that because I will never sit for those exams again because you have to have code books for them, if you want to go
Right.
to them. Just
Yeah.
because I literally have had code books just for tests. Like I've had to buy them a couple of times for tests, and I've also bought them at times when we run the programs. But I can typically like instruct and guide people without me actually physically having a current book, like
Right.
just using examples and things like that for the students. So, yeah.
Right. That's funny because I dislike coding as well, and I waited till the last minute to get my CPC because I kept trying to avoid it, and I was like, I don't need it. And then I
Yeah.
finally said, just do it. So I got it in 2017, but I don't even put
Yeah.
credentials behind my name most of the time.
I didn't maintain them. That's how much I hated it. I was like, I'm not sitting for any coding CEUs. You will not find me in anything back then. I was like, I mean, I think I did it for like a couple of years, and then I was like, that's no.
Right.
And again, I had not been in the job market for a while. I went from running a practice to then running another practice to then opening my business. So it wasn't like I was trying to market myself.
Right.
And so that's where when we talk about like, is it necessary, my folks who are billers that have been billers for a while, I'm going to say, I got some hellos here that I didn't get to. So, hey, Lachelle, what's up, Chica? Good to see you. Larissa's in the house. Hey, Larissa, I saw your question pop in. I'm going to answer the, without having class time. I love this. Okay, I'm gonna answer some of your questions. We'll put them up there in a little bit. So, yeah, I love it. Thank you and if you guys are in here and you have questions and you want to pop them into the chat when you get in here, just ask away. Tameka and I are gonna have a chat, and we're gonna read your questions along the way when they're really kind of like relevant to the particular topic that we're gonna touch on. But I want to know any of the questions that you have that are going to help you make the decision about whether you want to sit for the exam. So ask away. But so what I was going to say is that when I decided to go back to take the CPB and the CPPM and all of that, it actually had everything to do with me wanting to teach people and to prepare them. And I had trained people and done a lot of other things, but I didn't have the credentials to do that as like an approved instructor. And I wanted to also get a sense of like what the testing experience was like. I did actually not do it because I needed it for marketability. But for you guys who are looking to market yourselves, you're looking to maybe confirm like the certify, literally the knowledge that you have, so that you can maybe get a promotion or a raise or get hired. It does put you above the rest. Like if we're honest, like it helps to know when I am selecting someone that I know has invested the time and the energy in certifying themselves and confirming that their knowledge isn't just happenstance, which happens to a lot of us as billers. Is you're in a practice and you learn what you learn because you just happen to be at that practice and they happen to teach you. And that happens to a bunch of billers. And so when you're a hiring manager, it's really important to know that that person has relevant knowledge outside of this very narrow scope of whatever environment they may have been in. Like there are some really unhealthy environments, right, Tameka, where it's just like what you learned is not
what it is.
That is not the way.
That's true. And that's why I kind of felt like I wanted to take the class first and then sit for the test, because even though I had been in it for 7 years before I actually got certified, I still kind of felt like, do I really, like you said, it was in only one specialty. I was taught by somebody who did it. So it was like, do I really know? And I found out I really didn't know the things that I needed to know. So,
you know what's beautiful? I think that, the topic of imposter syndrome is coming to mind. Like it can really help you if you're struggling with imposter syndrome and you are like, do I really know what I'm doing? Like, did so-and-so really teach me billing, or is what I'm doing just something else? Like, something else altogether. If it happens, and if it happens in practices, it's just like, I don't know what that was. Like, I've had people that have like done a lot of direct payer portal entry stuff, and they thought they were doing medical billing all those years or whatever. I'm like, all you were doing was data entering into software. That's data entry. Technically, that's like a very, very narrow part of. So yeah, I think it's really helpful to know. So, all right, so let's get into these questions here. So, when do I know enough? Where's the line that you draw to say, okay, I'm ready to go into to take the CPB? So, like the first question is like, when do you really know enough to take the test, right? What are those things? So you want to go over the first one there, Tameka?
Sure. Let's see.
I can go over You have it? I was
Okay.
gonna say.
Well, start and then I can
Yeah,
go
yeah, yeah. No worries. I just totally was like, oh yeah, like go over the first one. We probably should have coordinated that. Sorry. Let's see. So the first point there is that you are a biller or you've recently completed a billing course. So you're currently working as a biller. And when I say biller, like I would broaden it to say you're not doing one very focused thing. Like I just mentioned, like if you are not, say just because it's a lot of work, if you're payment posting and you've only payment posted and you don't know what else goes on outside of the payment posting, your scope is too narrow, you will not be ready for a CPB test. You need to have a more comprehensive knowledge about the revenue cycle and like what takes place before you get those payments and what takes place after you get those denials and payments potentially, for invoicing patients and things like that. So I would say, you're not working as a biller, a full kind of end-to-end experience in the sense of the billing position, then you're probably not ready. Either you've done that or you've taken a comprehensive billing course. And I say billing course, I mean something that is really like meant to ready you for on the job or the test itself, right? So if you're taking a course, recently taken a course, I would say you're probably ready. And recent would be within the last year. I wouldn't go too, if you're doing other stuff in another industry and then you've taken the course, after about a year, you're going to start forgetting stuff. It's going to feel stale. You're going to feel like a fish out of water. You would not want to be putting yourself in the pressure cooker that is preparation for a test without feeling a little bit of a refresh. And in those instances, if you've taken a course and maybe you've had a narrow scope, I would not suggest that you should even take our readiness course yet. Like I would say that you need to go and you need to take a refresh of your course that you took. Maybe you did something online that you could just go back and revisit those things and then go into a prep that's more targeted to the CPB if you're not even working in the industry. If you're working in the industry and you can expose yourself to the other stuff, maybe. Like if you can ask your boss or your whomever to be able to kind of help you learn more about the rest of the revenue cycle, you could probably be ready for the readiness course, the prep course. Yep.
Right. And if I can add to that too, sometimes you don't even know that you don't know the whole billing portion of it. Like for me, I work in a small practice. So I was doing that plus more, but I couldn't really delineate, well, what was billing, what was this, because when you're in a small office, they have you doing everything sometimes. And you figure, that's why I think most people get confused about whether they have to code and they have to do this and that, because sometimes you just thrown a lot of duties and responsibilities and you don't know what is what. So
I love that you brought that up. That is so real. That is so real. And on that note, I would say like there are some resources and things that both Tameka and I have out there about the revenue cycle and understanding the revenue cycle more deeply. So you know what things really encompass billing versus things that maybe are adjunct, services that are done or actions that are tasks that are taken care of in the practice, but are not typically managed by responsibility of a biller. Coding has always been one of those things that like, it depends on the practice. It depends on the technology. It depends on, there's a lot of variables. And just to Tameka's point, like some small practices have been in business for a long time and they have like these interwoven things where that you're almost like an assistant to the provider with the coding. Like, you know what he did with what they did with the patient, and they look to you to plug in those services and support the efforts of the provider, and that's real. That's definitely possible. Now the truth is that keeping in mind that because they told you when I do this service you use this code, that may not prepare you for like getting your hands in a code book and like, learning to look for guidelines in a CPB book and things like that. You'll have to get familiar with how to navigate a coding book to be able to make your way through that section of CPB. There is a section of coding on the CPB. It's very, very small, and it's not like, I wouldn't call it, I don't know, Tameka, would you call it even like coding? If you look at it compared to CPC, which is certified professional coding, like what would you?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say it's really anything, but you do have to know how to, like you said, navigate the book to find whatever it is the answer is. So yeah, but it's not a lot. I think it's like 10. Well, they actually changed the test, so because I think we had 200 questions, and I think they have like 135 now or something.
Yeah.
So but I think it's a small amount, like 10 questions or something for CPP.
Right. And that, like, to your point there, when it gets smaller, it gets more weighted, which means that each question has more value.
More, yes.
Yeah, which is a little scary. It's only scary when you get like those case studies that you're like get lost in the case study, and you're like, there's 10 questions related to that case study. You're like, I didn't really even understand the case study. Like those are the scary ones where you're like, oh my God. So there's a lot of that, you guys. If you are like to Tameka's point, some of the questions that you're going to be in the coding books for are going to be quick. You have to know your way around, because you're going to refer to a section and basically answer the question based off of that information that you find. Obviously, speed is a thing, right? Which is the whole reason why prepping for a test is so helpful, because if you spend a big old whopping chunk of change just on that case study, that confuse the crap out of you, like there's a problem. You're going to fall into some tricky stuff, and you are going to put yourself in a situation where maybe you didn't get to those other questions. So yeah. I think that the topic of like coding is important for you to just have enough experience in the books, and potentially looking at like a case study that has a claim component attached to it that says like what's those types of things come up all the time. What's in the test is like, what's wrong with this claim? Some of it is related to coding, some is not. There's certain aspects of how to prep a claim in the right way that you may not be experienced with in a particular specialty that you've worked in, where you're like, it looks good to me because we never use modifiers. Like, we only build one line item or what, totally different than like a surgery code, than a surgery claim, excuse me.
Yeah.
What's the next point on there?
So the next one is, if you have, which is what we were kind of talking about, if you have a clear understanding of the revenue cycle and could describe it to a person brand new to healthcare. So just kind of what we were talking about right there.
Yeah. It's true. Like what I find really confirming for me when somebody's talking to me about what they do, and it's in their own words, that's when they have a deeper understanding about something, because they're able to take this big, wide, vast topic and condense it down to something that makes sense to them and reproduce it. And, it's like, I'm a medical biller, and that's all you say to somebody. And you're like, well, what do you really do? I bill the medical bills. Like, that's not different than what you just said.
Right.
But if someone can say like, oh, when you go to the doctor's office and you see that, like they kind of break it down in the general gist of like the revenue cycle in a layman's terms, that's helpful, and that gives me evidence to know like, okay, you probably get it, like what you're doing.
Right. I agree with that. That was funny.
People do stuff like that. I'm like, are we gonna have more of a conversation here? And other like get to know you, like networking sessions, and it's just like, I'm not the girl who has like the 60-second, elevator pitch, but it's like, because I talk too much for that. but I definitely, when I hear someone like say something that's, I'm like, wait a minute, you literally just said the same thing again. Like, you're an insurance claims adjuster. Like, what does he do? I adjust insurance claims. Like, sure, okay. Like, awesome. It's nice to meet you. Have a great night.
Right.
Enjoy your time at this networking event. Anyway, so okay. So the next thing is kind of what we were just chatting about. So understanding the general concepts of coding, knowing how to navigate a code book. You don't have to necessarily own a copy, like what is it called? A current copy of the code book. So this is what I will say to you. If you are like, I don't really know if I know, you guys know that most libraries have reference material, and a lot of them actually include books like the coding manuals. So if you've never checked your local library, I would suggest that you check it, because you might be able to go in there and just get your hands on it, because they're expensive, like in all honesty. If you're not sure and you're like, I don't know if I want to take this test this year, and you are, you're like trying to decide, don't go out and buy your code books without that confirmation that you're going to go look at them, mess around with them, or check the ones out at your job or wherever maybe that you might be able to ask to borrow those resources, or just get your hands on them, right?
Right.
You're like, I just need to see how I feel about about this book. Because if I'm intimidated, no problem. So I love it. And you want to go for the next one?
So you are comfortable with common healthcare revenue cycle terms such as NPI, CMS, ERA, HIPAA, CPT, and ICD. Yeah. Such common terms. We use those all the time, every day, mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I love this particular bullet is because a lot of people think that, you're kind of, oh, well, that's because they're going to quiz you on it. No, like what might happen is it's just information presented to you in the question, which is even worse. It's just like, if you don't know what it is and it's in the question.
The funny part is so most of the time, if you're just like, I don't know, either maybe self-taught or somebody taught you, they would say that NPI, CMS. And when let's say the question says Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, you don't know what it is, but you say CMS all the time. Yes. So it's like, it's funny that's taking a course helps, because at least you know what these terms are, and the abbreviations, because we love abbreviations. So
we do, and it's true. It's like even words like that you see all the time. You're like International Classification of Disease, edition 10 or whatever. Like you're like, well, what's that? Like exactly. You're like, oh, it's ICD. Like it's just like important that you feel less intimidated, to your point, like with those things. You're just like, oh yeah, like sometimes they do throw those curveballs at you. They're just like, hey, like, how well do you really know these terms? We're just going to put the full term out there and see if you know
what it means.
What it is. Yeah. And there are questions that are terminology based, which is like define this term kind of thing. It's gotten easier. I'd say, I believe the tests are a lot easier when they are digitally presented, because there's only a certain amount of ways that you can slice a test that has to be multiple choice. So in some cases you get those, what I call the gimme questions, where it's like, oh, well, I hope you know that. Like, obviously, that we all need some of those that are just like, light and easy. Because you'll get plenty of the ones that'll be doozies that you'll need to spend more time on. And that's where like the general like preparation for taking a test, and why we offer the coaching program, is because most of us get intimidated by that. Like you get stuck, and then your anxiety is through the roof, and you forget everything. Like you ever had those things like, I don't know what CPB is. Like, I don't know what does it stand for. I don't know. Like, I'm sitting with the test, I don't remember what it's just because you're freaking out, You're just like, so it happens. So I did put on there insurance plan knowledge as well on our list, because a lot of the test has some pieces that maybe you are not dealing with the day-to-day. Like if you aren't part of the insurance coordinating team, and you maybe aren't experienced with the types of plans like, PPO, POS, HMO, open access, whatever, they're going to try to throw some of those terms at you. And again, it might be presented in the question as a part of a case study or what have you. But it's important for you to know, like the potential plans and light credentialing of like, oh, is the person in network, out of network, right? Terms that we use as billers that you might need to know and understand to interpret, a case study that's presented to you. So, So those are kind of like, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, and just basically like the basics or the foundation, because you're not gonna know everything. There's no, like, even now, of course, I don't bill for all specialties. You don't bill for, you might be specializing in a certain thing and you don't deal with everything all the time. So, but if you have the foundation, you can at least figure it out. Like if it's a question you don't really know, but you kind of have an idea what this base word is, you kind of can figure it out. So you're not going to know everything. You're just not.
Yeah, I know, especially in the plan world. Like it's insane how many insurance plans there are these days. Like, I mean, every other day they're coming up with a new name, new fancy something. I'm like, what is it? Is it an HMO? Does it require anything? Right. Referral and authorization, whatever. And sometimes it might not be any sort of definition of HMO in your specialty, but in this other specialty, they require all the things. And we would be like, oh, well, we would call that an HMO if you can't go out of network and you can't do this and you can't do that, like all these other rules. So there used to be like only PPO, HMO, and then there was like that gray middle area, which is like our what was just the POS and the open access. And now it's like everybody's name of something random that they've decided to come up with that are all these gray plans that are a blend of things. And you won't ever know all of them, but you do need to have some familiarity enough to be able to kind of decipher what to look for.
Right.
To look for, like, is the patient able to access a provider out of a particular geographic area? That, is, if they're not able to, that's a type of an HMO. Might not be a straight HMO, which is, black and white type terms, but it's going to be one that's like, oh, well, if they traveled to another county, even, they might not be covered, right, in the same state. So yeah. All right. So here, moving now into what can help you determine that you are ready. We've talked kind of briefly about some of those things, hanging out with us on here. That can help you determine how hanging out with the medical billers meetup crew can help you determine whether you're ready. My mouse just died or something. Hang on. Like, I can't click back to my list. There it is. Okay. Just turned it off and on. Yeah. So helping to decide, like, if you are like hanging out with people that are in the billing world that are also certified or more experienced and stuff. And like, you're just kind of able to litmus test, right? Like, I don't know. I heard them talking about this and I didn't know what they were talking about. Like, there's a whole conversation went on. I was like, it was like Greek to me. I like it. So this is interesting. Okay, so let me see before we keep going. Let me see some of the questions that we've gotten here. So, okay, Larissa's asking a question that's more specific to our courses. So I'll just quickly answer that. We at the moment are not doing job locating support. We have a career prep on our plans for courses, but we do not do any advisement or support in the area of job search at the moment. So that's a great question, Larissa. Thank you for that question. Cool. And we have exams without having class time. You can actually you could literally next week sign up for every single test that AAPC offers and just buy those tests and sit for those tests. You could take all of them without having I wouldn't say all. There are some out there that have prerequisites on their site, but majority of them do not. And you can go out there and sit for the tests. There are practice tests, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, that will also help you decide if you are actually ready to take it. So if you're feeling super like, yeah, pumped, I feel good about this, and you're like, and you sit down for the practice test and it like shatters all your dreams, you're like, I'm not good. Yeah. Then you might know that you probably wouldn't want to sit without getting some training and stuff. So, but at least maybe, you go back to doing a coaching readiness course versus taking a full medical billing training course, right? So it's a good question. All right, let's switch back for a moment and answer. We have some other questions, but we're going to talk about this a little bit. So how else can you determine whether you're ready? So I just mentioned the practice test actually. So the AAPC, and I'm pretty sure AMBA for their test have had practice tests that they update on a regular basis, which I think is really great for you to really get an understanding of like what types of questions that they might offer on their test. I honestly think that the best resource to get your practice test from is going to be directly from those organizations, because they offer the tests.
Right.
Go to the source. Yeah, like you kind of get a real sense of like how the questions are worded, and you know, all the things. Plus, AAPC offers theirs digitally as well, so you also kind of get a sense of like, how does it feel for me to take a practice test online, like a test online? And maybe you've never taken a test online. Like, it's real, you know.
Yes. I just took my instructor test online, and I was freaking out. It was stressful. It was very stressful.
Did they do that proctored, their instructor one?
Yes, and I had to show my room. It was a thing. It was. I would have preferred to do it in person, but I didn't. I would have to travel and all that stuff. But yeah, I've done both, and I would prefer in person, actually. Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it's such an interesting like environment. This is where I actually have to I had to prep to take my digital virtual ones, or whatever they call them, online ones, because of like I have ADHD, and I don't really like to sit in one place for a long time. I also drink a lot of water, and so I have to pee a lot. So every time you leave your desk, you have to rescan your room again.
I was hoping I didn't have to. I was saying, please don't have to pee. Please don't have to pee through this whole thing.
You got to train for those things. You got to train your bladder, and that's the simple stuff. Like, you don't realize that, like, you actually have to prepare your physical body to be in that seat for 4 hours, as long as the amount of time that you have to take the CPB is 4 hours, to sit in the seat, to not drink as much water as you usually do, to not be wanting to snack. Like, if you're someone who's always snacking on something, you know, I mean, not that you can't snack. I don't know that there's a rule against that per se, but they do have rules around your environment. That you have to just be aware of. Like, if you're someone who likes to work and do things and have music on and things like that, you can't have none of that.
Yeah.
You control your whole environment.
I didn't want to breathe too hard. I just didn't want to do anything that would mess this test up.
The other thing is, you can't have people in your space. So like, they want to have people. So like, I was in, I took one of the tests, and I was in one of the other offices, and there's like a hallway like outside of the office, and you can hear, like, I was like hoping that people weren't loud and like too loud talking walking past, because like, you know, like I have to explain, like, no one's in the office with me. They're like, so there was someone painting in the hallway. It was the whole thing. So he was like painting the doorway. So he was like right out front having a conversation. So like, I hope that they don't stop me in the middle. So yeah, those are things that happen, and that you just, you know, you have to be aware of. Like, if you're in a testing environment from home that you've curated, and there's a bunch of interruptions and things, it can impact your the validity basically of your test. So
right. Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so we got there. So taking practice tests, we talked about picking the brains of other people who've recently sat for the test. Like, this, y'all, this is where the Facebook group is helpful. Like, where even when we get together on live streams on Medical Billers Meetup, like asking people, like, have you sat for it? And like, just create that cross conversation to ask their real experience, you know.
And catch them early. Catch them when they just sat for it. Because to be honest with you, I mean, I guess it depends on the person, because some people do like remember all the half the questions. I'd be so happy to be finished. I passed. I ain't even trying to think about the question. But there's some people, I think you also have to know yourself, know how you take tests, know your style. Like, everybody's gonna be different. It's not, some people need to take a long time to prepare, and they need to make sure they have this amount of, you know, studying in and everything. I'm that type of person. I will wake up this morning and say I'm taking a test and take it this afternoon. Like that's me. But everybody can't do that. You
That
have to know
my coach would call
yourself.
that we're what's called quick starts, which means we've got great ideas and we
Yeah.
just we're attacking them.
Yeah.
We're just gonna do it. We're just gonna do
But
it right now.
everybody is not like I want to take,
Yeah.
as soon as I finish my course, I'd already scheduled my exam. Like if I finished it today, it was like if I could do it tomorrow, I want to do it tomorrow. Like I don't want to wait and give myself 2 months. No,
Right.
I need to do it now.
That's me.
So
I'm like, I've got the grand idea. I'm cramming and we're gonna get it done.
We're gonna get this done.
We're gonna get it done. I might not be sleeping for the next 2 days.
I know.
But I'm gonna take that test on Friday. Like it's true. There's just there are other people who need that, like you said, more time that need that the drip basically, where it's like, give me 30 minutes every day, give me an hour every week or something that they can kind of continue to absorb the knowledge and not feel overwhelmed. And there's other people that like us that need the information all at once. Like, give it to me all at once. Let me just cram it all in there. Cram it all in your brains, and I'm gonna go for it. It's both sides. There's no wrong way.
That's what I was gonna say. Either way is fine. Just know yourself. Don't let anybody tell you what you need to do. You need to know yourself, know how you take tests, and some people get anxiety. Like, it's a whole thing. So you just need to know yourself and know when you feel ready. No one can really tell you when you're ready.
And to that point is our last point related to that is simulating the testing environment. That's going to help you know whether this is a thing for you. Like, am I going to get anxiety just sitting in the room and having somebody watch you got to have your camera set up in a way they're like watching you. It's like you might be uncomfortable on Zoom with your video on. Like, if that makes you stressed, you're gonna have to be okay with that. They're gonna watch you the whole time. Every time you pick your nose, they will see it.
Right? Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Funny. Okay, so let's see. What is the purpose of taking a CPB prep course? So we offer the CPB readiness coaching program. I get questions about, like, can I just do this? Can I just do that? First thing to know is I've talked a lot, and we have a whole video that we can link in here that explains like the differences between mastering medical billing with us and CPB prep, the readiness coaching program. Like that CPB readiness coaching program is really you drilling and getting ready for the test.
Right.
We move so fast through the content. We are not, and I say I because I lead the course. I am not there to teach you the concepts. We are not going to go over a deductible and a whatever. We're not going to be explaining the differences between a copay and a coinsurance unless you are struggling with that idea of, how do I interpret it, right? Like, maybe you have always presented this to a patient that they owe this or that, but you've never really wrapped your head around calculating it from scratch, right? Like, not relying on an EOB or what have you, right? That's what you have to be prepared for with the test. Now, we are not going to talk about the general, let's define the terms and let's, talk about what patient responsibility is and all of that. That is mastering medical billing. That is a course on billing, right? CPB prep is, do you understand how to calculate a coinsurance when you see 80% coinsurance and the patient has X allowed amount that's written on an EOB? That is very different. If you are struggling with that concept, the general idea of applying this information, right? So know that there are big differences for us with CPB prep and mastering medical billing. I want to make sure everybody's super crystal clear that if you do not have experience as a biller, if you are not someone who's taken a course recently, I don't want you jumping to take CPB because you will struggle and we will have to refund you. We'll have to say, sorry, you can't do it, because it's going to slow everybody down. Like, what we're doing is powering through those sections. Everyone's reading the information, taking the end of the chapter questions on the study guide, and that is an indication of where you're struggling. Like, you take those questions and you're like, oh, I got questions 3, 5, and 7 wrong. That's what we get from you. All right. We get that information. We're like, okay, here's where we need to work. Let's go over those concepts. Let's make sure everybody's clear on it. So it is not let's teach you A to Z billing.
Right.
Yeah. The CPB prep courses are, like I just said, they're for drilling for the test. We talked about that a lot. Like we simulate the testing environment. There are two sessions that are done together where you do a prep, a practice test. And that is, we're proctoring, we're looking at you while you're taking it for half the time. And then we do it for the full 4 hours. So we'll do it for 2 hours, and we'll do it for 4 hours, just to help you build up to that 4 hours, and kind of like your testing muscle, building the testing muscle up. Did you ever do any prep stuff before you sat for yours online, Tameka?
Yes, definitely. Like I said, even though I knew and I felt like I knew it, I still felt like, no, I need to just kind of make sure. I think anybody, I don't care how long you've been in it, actually, I would recommend to at least do, even if, like I said, if you don't take a course or like a course to prepare you to sit, but at least a practice test, something to kind of give you an idea of how it's going to be, because you might be really in for a rude awakening if you just go in there without knowing anything.
Exactly. Sitting in there confused.
Yeah.
Nicole said she'd be a doomsday prepper. Yeah. I'm just gonna continue preparing. Yeah. My Virgo friends, like, they'll be like I planned all my tests for the next 5 months. Like my studying for the next 5 months. Like every minute of the day is devoted to that. I'm like, I'm definitely the person who's just like, I really don't feel like studying today. For the next 10 days leading up to the test. And then I'm like, oh, the test is tomorrow. Cool. 8 hours.
Oh, wow.
I can procrastinate my way for sure.
Right.
All right. So I love what all the different conversation here. Let me see what other questions. Let's see.
And I don't know if I could throw this in here too, because I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but I know sometimes I've heard someone say that, like you said, because it's timed, that you take so long on a question and that you don't finish answering it. So I know when I took it, like I said, it was 200 questions, and it was recommended that you answer all the questions. Like, when you leave out questions, you have no chance. At least if you answer it, you have a chance of getting it correct. And you need a certain amount of correct answers in order to pass.
That's true.
Please don't just leave things blank. Try.
Yeah, that's such great advice, because there were a couple, I don't know if it was on CPB or what test it was on for me, but I definitely was like, I have no idea. I've just, at the end, I left those flags, and I'm like, went revisited it, and I'm like, Finger on the test. C. Okay, it's C. Yes. Like I no clue.
Just didn't know. Yeah, don't leave it blank though.
Yeah, you're gonna have those, and just be okay with that. But the reality is that either that, or like I just didn't really feel like looking in the coding book again.
Right.
I was like, I did remember seeing a couple of those where I was like, I don't really feel like that. I'm done with those books. I actually took my CPB in person, and I feel like that was more difficult for me. I don't, why I didn't like the in-person environment as much is I don't like having a bunch of people. It's like, it's one of those rooms that you're just like, it's a testing room. It feels like a testing room, like energy wise, other people are stressed. And whenever AAPC offers testing in person, it's always been, people can take not a lot of different tests at the same time. And so some people have a lot of flipping pages, code, like there's CPC people taking their tests, and they're constantly in and out of code books and, making a bunch of noise. And it just wasn't, I like being around other people, but I don't really care for that in a testing environment,
Right.
It's, I guess it's like, if you're the person who likes to, it's like read a book at a library or read a book at home, like in peace of your own home. Like it's, it depends on what you enjoy. And I personally would prefer like being in control of my own environment. As much as I don't like sitting at a desk at a computer that long, it's definitely it feels more natural to me, I should say, than being in a testing environment. So
right, I can understand that because I was the only person taking my CPB and everybody else was taking like a CPC, and I had finished so early, right? And I was like, oh my God, maybe I need to go back and look because because everybody else was sitting there, like you said, flipping and doing it. And I was like, well, maybe but then I had to remind myself that I'm not taking the same test that they're taking.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah. So, yep.
There were people, when I took my CPB, there were people taking their CPPM. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, that lady, like she has in and out of her. Like I remember leaving there thinking, I don't know if I'm going to be ready to sit for the CPPM because it seemed like she was like having a time, and she had been a practice manager for a lot of years. We were chatting before, and she was like all up in that book. And I was like, I'm like, oh God, like I'm intimidated by this reference book.
Oh my God. Don't let people intimidate you, because actually when I sat for the CPC, I was speaking to a lady and she was like, well, I took mine. It's so hard. This was before the exam. It's so hard. I took mine 3 times and she had me scared. She's like, so if you fail, just, do it again. And I went in there and I passed that thing on the first try.
Yes.
And I was out. I was like, that was you. I'm sorry, but please don't make me nervous.
So many people. You guys are in, I'm sure, other Facebook groups and stuff where you see people like talking about they sat for like, these exams like 5, 6 times. I'm like, really? Yeah. Did you really pay that many times? I don't understand that, but this is where I feel like if you're not, it depends, I guess, how badly you're failing, I guess. But if it's not coming naturally to you to wrap your head around the concepts after the first or second time that you've done an actual real prep course and all the things, then maybe there's a chance, an opportunity to possibly like revisit, like maybe you need some mentorship, or maybe revisit like the course material, something before you try to don't just keep going out there and just banging your head against the wall, taking the test a bunch of times.
Right.
And like Larissa's question here, taking more practice tests. The answer to the question is no. There's no free practice tests. They charge for them, but I don't think they're that much if you just purchase the test by themselves. I think they always sell them in a bundle of I believe 3. AAPC does, and so I don't think they're that much if you just do the tests themselves. If you were curious to see how well you would do. I would say that, and if you take the CPB readiness coaching with us, you get all the prep stuff that you need for it. But if you were just going to go out and kind of litmus test, like just get a sense of whether or not you are ready for the test, you would definitely want to purchase directly from AAPC. Don't go out there like taking some random person's test online or something. I would not suggest that.
Yeah, and so to answer your question, they have 3 ABC. If you do them separate, if you are a member, it's $40 each, or you can get the bundle for $80.
Okay, so they do sell them separate. Yeah, $40 each is not bad. Yeah, that's not bad. So there you go, Larissa. Thank you for answering that for her. I see some other at the front desk in the biller. A tribe. I'm sorry, I probably missed when you were saying those, but it's great to see you though. I'm sorry, clicked the wrong one. Rajesh, hey, what's up, friend? Yes, you can take, well, as long as your country allows, and India, I'm pretty certain, does allow you to partake in all of our things as far as like the Thinkific purchases. So I think you would be fine to join us. As far as the AAPC goes, I know for a fact there are tons and tons of certified individuals in India, so you can absolutely sit for the AAPC's exams from India as well. Every country is a little different, so if you are not in India or in the Philippines, or in Pakistan, because we also have teams in Pakistan, I am not certain about what the rules are in your country. I do know that I am aware of teams in South America and even Central America. There's some teams that I've worked with in the past that are certified. So I do know there's a lot of countries that you can get certified in the U.S. So I would just check directly with the AAPC to make sure. Cool. Let's see. Rajesh, I'm not going to be able to answer that question tonight. If you can ask that question in the Facebook group, that'd probably be a better place for it. So you're welcome, Larissa. That they answered a question she hadn't put the playlist up there. So thank you for sharing that. So the page turning noises. Yeah. It's irritating. It is. It's like it's a little bit like nerve-wracking when you hear all that extra noise in the background. And some people get really stressed to your point that you were making earlier, Tameka, about like people having test anxiety. You can feel their
The
energy.
tension. Yes.
Yeah, you can feel that tension that they're giving you is like, you don't
Yeah.
want that. It's
Right.
like,
No.
oh,
You already have your own. You do not need nobody else's.
I don't need yours. No, thank you. No, thank you. Let me see. All right, I'm looking back because we had, oh, perfect. Yeah. So Nicole shared the job hunting streams. Yeah, that was great. So that's a really great idea. Thank you so much, Nicole. She shared the job. That was the job hunting stream playlist that she shared there in case you guys saw that link and weren't sure what it was. So for this comment, other things to be aware of, other billing. Oh yeah, exactly. Other things that people are doing outside of billing per se, like insurance and coding, etc., etc. So Nicole is just helping us, catching us up on what was being discussed when those comments came in, because we were still chatting. So I want to quickly, just recapping really quickly on some of these bullets here on what's the purpose of taking your CPB. It's getting you ready for the test, right? Like CPB prep is getting you ready for the test. It's like drilling on physically being able to sit for this exam for the period that's required in the environment that it's required in, and all of those things. It's going to also kind of just polish your overall test taking skills, like making sure you understand how much time you have for each question. Like there is a math equation. You need to know it. You need to know, like, if I have spent more than X number of minutes on this question, I mean, when I get to this number of minutes, I need to move on and revisit that at the end, because there's going to be other questions you'll be able to fly through. Right. And you want to get to the end, to Tameka's point, you want to answer all of the questions. So try to get through to every single one of them, and then revisit the ones that you were like, I don't really know if that was the right answer. Maybe you get to the end of the test and it's like it connected the dots for you by answering other questions that you know the exact answer now, right? So there's an opportunity, but you have to learn those relearn perhaps those test taking skills. And then really just getting an opportunity to workshop with a coach and learning from your compadres, your people the people who are with you, right? Your oh my gosh, I was going to say coworkers, but that's not the word I'm thinking of. The people that are taking the prep with you will also have problems or challenges with understanding particular concepts. Those things that they're struggling with might help you. And so being in an environment where you can kind of get the support from other folks based off of the things that they're struggling with, you might not have had a question necessarily at this section or this area, but someone asked that question and you're like, oh my God, I had no idea that was even a thing. And now you all of a sudden feel comfortable and confident with a concept that, maybe is on that test. So.
Right. And if I can add to a tip for the test, a lot of the time, if it's multiple choice, 2 of them can just go, like, for the most part. Like, if you and try, even if you take out the 2 and you don't know what the answer is, still at least mark the 2 that's not it. So when you come back, you just know you gotta look at these 2 instead of
I love that.
looking at everything again.
Yeah.
So most of the time, it's 2 of them. You could be like, that's not it. Yeah.
I love it. I love that. That's such a beautiful recommendation and such an important test taking skill, is like understanding how to work through those multiple choice questions without feeling intimidated by all of the options, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to back into it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Cool. What else you want to add? Anything else coming to mind?
I used to think they were trying to trick me, and that used to get me tied up, because it was like, it got to be something in all the answers, and that's why I started to do that. But don't overthink it too much, especially if you know you've prepared. Now, if you didn't prepare, that's a different story. You might have to overthink. But
Yeah,
if you
exactly. If you
know,
never sat for a prep, or never even taken a practice test or something.
right, like, but if you know you prepared, try not to overthink it. And because I used to do that, like really overthink it and start, but maybe they meant that maybe this word was. Don't do that to yourself.
Reading between the lines.
Yeah, reading between the stop. No, if you're prepared for it, just do what you have to do. Like I said, those little tips, like I said, I think really helped me in passing it too. And just don't let nobody rush you. You know when you're really ready to do it, and you know how you take exams and how you feel when you take exams, so you will know when you're ready to do it.
So real. And I love too, like the idea of getting to the end of the test, because I feel like when you get to the end, you can exhale. You're like, okay, all right, that wasn't that bad. And then you go back and revisit those questions that maybe you struggled with a little bit. And maybe you're just like, it doesn't even matter what I put, because I know I got, 90% of those questions. Like
and kind of try to do the math too, like you were saying earlier, like how long you have to do. And of course, don't keep looking at your, saying, oh my God, I got 2 minutes, I got 1 minute. Like, you don't want to be like that, but you kind of get an idea. If you have 2 minutes to take to do each question, then you kind of have an idea if you're taking too long. If this one, you did 5 of them in a row and it didn't even take you a minute, like you kind of have an idea of the time that you have to do it. And then knowing how much you need right. Because like you said, you kind of could feel like, well, 10 of those questions I just know was out the door. But if you need only, if you can get 20 wrong and still pass, then at least you won't feel too bad, So kind of have that in mind too. And they have that on their site as far as how much questions you have and how much time. So you just do the math, try to figure that out for yourself, so you won't be too nervous and too, crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Going spinning in circles and going crazy. Yeah. So that's such great advice. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge. I appreciate you for being here. It's such
a gift. I'm tired of taking tests now. I'm over tests at this point.
There's one more that I want to take, just because I want to prep for that organization, but it's not at the top of my list right now. But probably by the end of next year, I'll get that one, just because I want to. You want to know how those organizations run their exams. Like, people ask questions. I think I mentioned this company, the organization, the Revenue Cycle Professionals Association. They have their own exam, and I just want to know a little bit about their testing environment and all the parts to it. Based on what I saw in the description of the test, it doesn't seem challenging per se, as far as like the overwhelm of needing to do all the things we're talking about. But I do think that I want to, getting a better sense of that information to know whether it would help me advise, you guys differently, because it could be that it's like, totally different experience. And
right. Okay. Revenue Cycle Professionals, you said?
Yeah, it's like the Association for Revenue Cycle Professionals or something like that. It's definitely more hospital, or what I would believe is more hospital oriented as far as the association's population. But it's definitely revenue cycle. It's not anything that's like different than what we're accustomed to by any means. But the association makeup and the members, I believe, are majority of them are hospital-sized organizations and things like that. So, yeah, I'm very interested to know how they prep their test and all that. So, yeah. Cool. All right, my friends. So we're going to wrap up here because it's late. I want to just quickly say, I mentioned at the beginning of our time together that next week there is a chance I'm going to need to change our live stream time around a little bit. I just have a conflict of something that I need to tend to on that. It's 7 p.m. on a Thursday. So I'm going to modify the time for next week's live stream. But if you are not plugged into the places, like stay subscribed, stay updated on all the different socials. I'll get it worked out by tomorrow. Before end of business tomorrow, we'll have it announced what next week's live stream will be. But just so that you know, to be on the lookout for that, and you can modify your calendar reminder so you know when to join us.
Right. Cool.
Thank you, Madame. Thank you for your time. Oh, and if you guys are new and just popping in here, this is Tameka Duncan from Medical Billing Maven here on YouTube. So she is a guest appearance. So if you are not checking her out, pop onto her YouTube and exactly. Go scour all of her stuff. She's got some great content. And I'll let you guys in on a little secret that she's going to also have great content on our Inlera University. She's working on a course. So I'm not going to tell y'all out. It's a little hush hush. But we've got some course content coming up from Miss Tameka that we're going to be rolling out here soon. So big things on this part. So I love your brain, and I love like how, you and I have like we see each other.
Yes.
Yeah, we got our own little language, y'all.
Yep, we do.
All right, my friends, have a beautiful rest of your evening. We will catch you.
Enjoy your evenings. Bye.
Bye, guys.